Hey, Hal here. I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with OnX Hunt. I've been using it for a while now, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not a very techie person, but the OnX app is it's a real time saver. I remember the days when we poured over topo maps everywhere we was going to go and stuff, and I don't do that quite as much anymore. Where it's really helped me is scouting, whether it's deer scouting, a moose, or even turkey hunting in the spring, which I do. It really helps out. I don't have to spend as much time running around the truck burning up the gas. I'm just basically using my OnX. Got it on my phone. Don't even carry a GPS anymore. So I just download the areas where I'm going to be hunting, whether it's up north moose hunting, and I use it mostly on the satellite imagery. I like to see the cuts and the clearings and the turkey hunting, the hidden fields and stuff. But everybody's using it now, from the game wardens to land surveyors, and just a great tool. And with our partnership with OnX, if you use a code BWB, you're going to receive 20% off on your first premium or elite memberships. And you just go to onxmaps.com/hunt. You'll be glad you did. Good luck on the trail.
This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights in the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, down here at Pileland Lodge again with Joe.
Hello.
Got Big Rick Labbe, a.k.a. Peaches, over there in the corner.
Hello. I'm trying to get rid of that name.
You never will. And Garnett.
Hey, I call him Dad. When we're fishing, at least.
Yeah.
I thought it was Danny. Aren't
He
you
takes-
guys Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito? Twins?
Well, I have the same boots as him.
He does.
Yeah, out in Wyoming, I got the same boots and hat.
He does listen to orders good, though.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
You didn't say that when I tangled up your line.
Oh.
We lost $300 worth of gear.
I don't think I did that.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, well, all right. We got a little different setup here, you probably noticed, because we're trying to make things better. And the fire feels good, about 12 degrees this morning, so the fire feels good. Joe don't keep it very warm in here, so.
Why would I?
Closed up. He shuttered everything in the winter now.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're going to do something a little different with the podcast. Probably not this one, but we're going to try to up the game on it a little bit. And we've learned quite a bit about it. We're going into our 6th year here, and we've learned quite a bit about this stuff. And we've been listening to what you've been saying and things like that. So we're gonna try to make something a little bit more consistent, and a few more guests on and stuff. And so that'll start next time. I think next time we record them, we're gonna start with a new format. And one of the things I want to do in this format is, or I should say we want to do, is get questions from you, and we'll answer questions and stuff. Well, that'll be like a segment, 15-minute segment or whatever. Or anything else you come up with. They could be questions or comments or whatever. And but mostly questions, especially about, what you need to hear from us about, how to hunt certain places or ways or whatever. So if you would, if you want to participate in that, you can email me your questions. And if you would put in the subject line podcast, that way I can put them all in a folder, because I'm not very organized. That'll keep me organized a little bit. And I'm sure there'll probably be, a lot of people probably have similar questions or whatever, and that'll be like a category. So every podcast will have a topic, category, whatever you want to call it, and we'll mull that over between us and go from there. And we was trying to figure out how to do something with a call-in, but since they're recorded, it might be hard to do that, but maybe not. So we'll put a little thought into that, and we're going to get a better backdrop here. We're going to actually go over to Joe's little camp, he calls it, and it's like a rustic old log place over there. It's pretty nice.
That where we did the one with Mike that day? It was like 20 degrees inside there.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. He's got a fireplace over there, though.
I don't think it was going that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that set up, too.
Yeah, we'll set up over there and just try to up the game, make everything look good or whatever. So, I had to make some notes this morning because I didn't want to miss nothing. Format.
Is this like the radio when dead space is bad?
Yeah,
Now?
that's right. At least they can still see us, so
That's right.
put
Yeah.
my glasses onto that. A little bit of housekeeping stuff, not too much. Of course, it's always, we appreciate all our sponsors in that, so support those. And I wanted to mention about, I'm taking bookings now for this fall's deer hunts. I've got the regulars all fit back in, the ones that are coming back, and so we've got some room for some new people if you guys want to join us this fall. And so you can just email me about that, hal@bigwoodsbucks.com too. We have we still got a few guided hunts left, and then American Plan. I think the only week that's booked, third week is booked, and but we got openings in the other weeks. And this year it's kind of the deer season up here starts. It's because of leap year. It flipped ahead again, so the season starts November 4th. So it's like a week later than last year. So
Right. Everything jumps ahead now.
yeah.
Yep.
So surely we'll have snow the first week again like usual. And we did last year, even though it started in October. But we never know on that. But anyways, our season rotates around. Thanksgiving's always the last week of rifle, and we have the 3 weeks before it. So if you want to come join us, punch me out an email and tell me what you're looking for, either American Plan or the guided hunts. And if you don't know, if you haven't looked on there, there's 1-on-1, 2-on-1, and 3-on guided hunts. And American Plan is meals and lodging, and we'll send you off in places to go. Put your pin on your own X or whatever.
Yeah, that odd year really screws up the Moose Week this year.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
I'm glad it's 1 year though.
Yeah, it's always our seasons in Maine. They're not on a date. They're on the calendar. So they're always formed up around some calendar thing, like Thanksgiving is the last. I think it reads the fourth Monday before Thanksgiving or something. They wrote
Right.
some oddball stuff in there, but
I forgot to mention also, we were talking when we came in, when we were talking, but anyway, I got the final, being that I guess we're on Moose now, I got the final score for Matt's Moose yesterday.
Oh, I was going to ask Matt
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So Brian called me when he picked them up on Tuesday. They got shipped from Alaska, and he said he called me and he's like, these things are giant. He thought 240, is what he was thinking, but it lost it made all time Alaska book, but it just made it by half inch. 224 and 2/8 was the net. It was 228 and 4/8 gross.
Wow. I would have guessed way more.
I
than
would
that.
have.
Well, it lost it on the points because the tops were all rounded off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when we talked about it, we thought that too, that it was,
Yeah.
if there was any place, but it's still.
Oh, it's phenomenal
Yeah.
moves.
Who scored it?
Buddy of Brian's. He's a Boone and Crockett scorer, so he took all the pictures he had to do and everything, and it's going in. So
Yeah. Cool.
But,
Yeah. That's
Hell
a good
of
one.
moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that's that. I think that's the housekeeping stuff, and we brought down a lot of you. We've had some people from around here wondering what stores we could get they could get wool in and stuff, and we still haven't got there yet. And hey, I wanted to say we appreciate everybody buying the wool, the jackets, pants, packs, because we never anticipated the amount of sales, so we sold out on a lot of stuff. We kept selling out on the packs right off and kept getting them, as they get 50 made, we'd grab them and sell them, and the coats are the same way. I think the only thing left is a few green ones, the plain green, lighter wool we've got left. But anyways, we're getting more made, and going into this year, we're making a bunch of changes at Big Woods as far as, with the team taking over responsibilities. And I'd also like to mention we have a new CEO of Big Woods Bucks. We put it out there on Facebook, I think, but Brian Conner has been doing all our website, a lot of the editing and marketing and all that stuff, is taking over the position of the CEO. So we appreciate all he's done in the last year, and we got some young blood to guide us old fellas forward anyways.
Right.
And so he's got a plan to bring things even further ahead, and we're excited for it. So, and one of them will be, we've got some guys that want to do certain things. So Brad Willie's taking over the wool end of it. I don't know. I think Neil and a couple of the guys are doing shows or whatever. So, but anyways, we got a good plan for 2024, and we'll have the wool stuff out here again pretty soon, and keep moving forward with it.
You mentioned people asking questions. I just wanted to put it out there that I get a lot of questions about how to draw points, how to out west. So anybody that's interested in hunting out west, which I know a lot of people are interested now, and then especially late season when it's all over here in New England, they go out west, muzzleload or whatever. But I'll answer whatever questions I can. I mean, I do a lot of hunting out west. I don't know it all, but
the Midwest too, right?
Yeah, Midwest and
there you
West,
go.
Yeah.
So now Rick's going to be the Western hunting consultant. He's going to fill you in on everything to do out there.
New title.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, he'll tell you.
He even hunts foreign deer.
Yeah. I do?
Canada.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's boring, yeah.
Yeah. So, that'll be good. You're going to tell them exactly where to go, too, your hot spots, right?
Yeah, I probably won't give many of those up.
Yeah.
But how to get into the point system, that's the main thing is how to get started, and you got to draw points if you want to hunt out west, and almost everywhere it takes at least 1 point. Sometimes some of these good spots you can put in points for 15 years.
Yeah.
Which I'm not a big fan of that, to just put in for 15 years to go kill one game, but I put into more of the 2-3 point draws, and I just try to get back in deeper and further than the average guy, and there's always big game everywhere you go. So you just got to hunt harder.
Every state's different on that too, right?
Every state's different. Yeah. Every state's different. So it's I've hunted 18 different states, so I got a few of them figured out. But
What do you want them to do? Email you?
message me on Messenger.
No, they email you.
Email.
And then you send direct. Send all the emails to Hal. He loves it.
There you go.
I got a pretty
Just title it Out West Hunting.
yeah.
And then he can put it in that folder.
Hal will call me next week.
Yeah.
We're taking that off.
I got a pretty good junk folder.
Yeah, but no, I'll answer what I can. Help anybody with what I can with answers, and same thing. If I talked to Neil this morning about doing some shows this winter and stuff. So you'll probably see me at some of the shows, and any of you guys that are interested in hunting out west, I'll help you any way I can.
Yeah, speaking of shows, I'd like to mention that too. That was something I'd thought about, but I didn't write it down on my notes. But Neil and Ben's going to be helping Neil. Neil and Ben and Bob. And we know there's a lot of yous out there that would like to see us come to your area, wherever it is, because I get people ask me all the time, "You're going to be at this show or that show?" And we've only done a couple shows, quite frankly, but now that we got a crew that's going to do that.
I talked to Neil this morning, and I mean, if we all can't make it, at least you're going to see some of us make it.
Yeah, nobody's. Yeah,
right.
We won't have shows where everybody comes, but at least we can be there, and
some of us there.
We can show you our stuff. We'll have stuff there to buy if you want it and all that, and then the guys that go can do seminars or whatever, I guess. But I don't know how much this winter. It's getting kind of late to plan. They got things all planned out mostly, but just thinking ahead for the year, and so if any of you, even if it's out in the Midwest, Michigan or something, we'll see if it's feasible, and so if there's any area you would like to see us, if you could let us know that, and if you know what the name of the show is, would be a big help, because we don't know. If you say in New York, I mean, you gotta say there's a name to the show, and it'd be easier for us to look it up or get in contact with whoever promotes that show. And if any of you know who promotes it or have a connection there and want to toss our name to those people, you feel free to do that. So probably that you'll I don't know how you're going to get those to us. You can send them to me too, and I'll just forward them on for now, and then when I figure out who's going to do it, the email, go from there. Anyway, yeah.
So going back to the out west hunting, you had planned to come back in between your last two hunts, right? Then you ended up just staying out, or did you come back and go back out?
I did come back for just one day.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But in the years past, I went to Nebraska with a muzzleloader, two muzzleloaders. Nancy's got a muzzleloader, I got a muzzleloader, and my bow. And when you hunt Arizona, it's totally different gear because you're hunting desert. And Nebraska's, some days below zero out there, wind blowing, so you're bringing a ton of clothing. Well, then I got to bring all my clothing for hunting Sonora Desert, which, Sonora Desert, it's, 25 at night, 30 at night, and then during the day it can get to 60. You're in your T-shirt, or just a zip top camo. So I ended up lugging all that gear, and it cost me so much to ship it all because I got three cases and bow cases, and they end up losing stuff because you got so much gear. And so I just opted, it's easier to come home, drop off all my gear, change, then I could catch up on what the boys are doing with work because I still got my construction company going, and kind of gives me a day to run around, check all the jobs, and then I flew out the next day. So really there's like 2 or 3 days in between time I get home, got a day in between, then I fly out the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just worked out way better that way.
Got plenty of air miles in.
I was on 56 planes this fall. But, with all the changes, different planes.
Wow.
So 56 planes from September, I think it was the 9th or 10th, my first trip to Wyoming.
Glad you made it.
I'm burned out.
56 trips. Oh.
Yeah.
I'd have been burnt out about the fifth one.
It was, I think I hunted 8 different western states, and then I hunted Adirondacks. Lee Libby and I drove to Adirondacks, and we only hunted like 2.5 days. We ended up getting that rain that last day, and we ended up heading home. And then we hunted New Hampshire. That was a day and a half. That same thing happened there. It crusted right over. Yeah.
Yeah.
So conditions just didn't work out, but.
Yeah, we had a hell of a flood here since the last time we met.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not up
some
here
rain.
so much, but
No,
boy,
yeah.
the water went down
Well,
right there.
everything from here, yeah.
Yeah.
I said one of our bridges got washed out there on the snowmobile trail, and gone. Like these bridges, that they didn't just like get washed out and lay up next to us. They're gone.
Wow.
I figured it must have floated by my house an hour and a half south.
I
at some
see on the
point.
way up they dug the stream channel out for.
Yes, they did that. I think they did
Pleasant
it one
Stream.
night because I drove
Yeah,
by
I
it
did
one
too,
night
yeah.
going home, and I kept looking at it. And
Yeah.
it was a mess.
But
And they did a
flood
nice
filled
job with
the
it.
stream channel, so that re-diverted the stream.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think everybody in the country's been having weird weather because it's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
across the mid. And then now we've got these storms. We just had this one up here that we didn't get as bad. The coast got hammered. The biggest flooding in the coast they've seen in a long time. And then it's going to
Yeah.
do it again tonight and tomorrow with 70-mile-an-hour winds. I guess one place had 90, down towards Eastport, they had 93-mile-an-hour winds
Wow.
or something.
Hurricane.
Yeah, and it came with the tide in and flooded everything. But it's too bad. We feel bad for
Yeah.
everybody has to deal with that. But so, you got a story for us, Rick? About you want to tell?
Well, where do you want to start?
Well, we don't want to start with the first of the 56 flights.
No, we don't want to, I won't mention any flights at all. But
First thing I want to hear about is how you lost the $300 worth of stuff, because Garnett seems to be denying it, but
the fishing gear.
yeah,
He let me touch his downrigger.
he let you touch it.
I can't really remember what happened, but
I don't remember, but I know he sat there and he's calling him Dad because he's undoing all the tangles for like an hour.
it was one of them messes that you can't undo.
Big bird's nest.
Yeah. Just
Then-
cut the lines off. Huh?
Then we got a big salmon on because the girls had both caught like 25-pound salmon.
That's when you went to Lake Ontario?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
And then
yeah.
I got like a 25-pound salmon, and he says, "Oh no, I don't want to catch one. Let the girls catch it. Let the girls catch it." And we all went,
Made me take the rod.
"You're catching it." And I'd never seen him smile so much when he got that salmon.
It's like Dad coached me all the way into. I was like, netted it. Yeah, actually, it was like up and on.
Did you tip him at the end of the day?
I tipped him over.
Tipped me over. Yeah. And get this, Sally told me how many fish he's lost for her over the years, like 6
Oh, he would, yeah, threw me out
pound
of the way
brookies.
with it, yeah.
Yeah, and so I grabbed the net, and she goes, "Whew, I'm glad you netted that
I
fish."
missed
Rick."
it. I missed it on the first one. She's like that. She's like he took it away.
I had to take the net away
I
from him.
lost a trout that
He's making you look bad in front of your own wife.
she caught a trout that was 5 pounds 2 ounces, and she lost one this near here. Like how I always tell you, like not far from here. It wasn't far from here. And she had a trout that was 22 inches, weighed over 5 pounds, is that fat. And I got one that's 4 pounds, but she lost one is way bigger. And I say she lost one is I had this short net, and I kept telling her, I said, she thought she had bottom, and I said, just tighten up your drag. Like, it must be, I can't believe it's bottom. I reached out, and I could feel the fish. I said, yeah, tighten up your drag. Well, she tightened it so much that when she reeled it in, as like I reached out, I was fly fishing, she was fishing with lures, and I reached out, and I just barely touched it with the net. It went right out straight. You see her whole rod bend over, and it goes tink. And it looked like a togue. This trout was so big. I'm in Maine. I've caught them up in Labrador like that, but this was in Maine, right close to here. and it was giant. I was just like, and
She didn't talk to him for a week. She told
she's
me.
standing there. I don't know how she smiled with her other fish, because like she had a picture with her 5-pounder. I'm like, that's a big. She's like, shut up. She went and bought me a net though. I got a net out of this. Big long.
Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Probably that big around.
I got a big long net. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we had fun. That was a good trip.
Yeah.
I actually think that salmon was probably bigger than the one I got. And I had one in Alaska. You're not allowed to pull them out of the water. If you do, you're like where I was. You weren't allowed to keep kings. And I had it up next to shore. I started to pick it up, and some guys warning me about game wardens up there. I guess it's pretty serious to pull the fish out of the water. So I was screaming at Sally, and she didn't show up, so I had to break the thing off. So this one might have been bigger than that. I don't know, because it was a big fish.
We made him catch it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick actually made me. I was handing the rod off to the girls, and he said, "You're reeling the damn thing." Yeah. He might have swore worse than that. I was like,
Yeah. So, anyway, so we'll start with my first hunt, which would be my elk hunt in Wyoming. And I drew a bull tag, wilderness tag this year, which is with a wilderness tag, you either have to have a guide or you've got to have a resident that you know. And every resident can take 2 non-residents. So that's the way it works. And so my buddy Todd, that lives in Wyoming, and I went in and hunted the backcountry with him. I've hunted with Todd for probably 10 years now. And so I called my buddy out there and lined up 4 horses. We lined up 1 pack horse and 3 riding horses. And my friend Toby and Todd went with me, and just the 3 of us. We rode in 11 miles in, packed a little pack tent, and, organized all our gear out so we had it planned out, weight-wise. A lot to pack it in to organize, because once you're in there, that's what you got for gear. There's no...
Right.
What does a horse comfortably carry?
Comfortably? Yeah, 150 pounds. That's about, that's what we put on a pack horse. But really, when you pack an elk out, though, you put more than that on him, on a pack saddle. But,
so I couldn't ride a horse in with you then?
You'd be all right. They make bigger horses.
Did you, was you near your place there in that area?
Yeah, I was from my cabin there in near Pinedale in Boulder. I'm in Boulder. But I was probably, 8 or 10 miles from my cabin, and then we rode in 11 miles.
Yeah.
About 11-mile ride in.
Nice.
So we rode up in the mountains, and we got up in by this little lake where we camped out, and I had a little video there. Nobody's seen it on my elk hunt. It's pretty good. We had moose down to the lake at night or early in the morning. We'd have moose right out in that little lake eating lily pads. They'd go underwater and come back up, and so we headed out that first morning after we camp set up that night, and I went back into an area where I shot a bull like 4 years ago when I had another wilderness tag, and I got back in there and ran into a couple of bull moose, and I played around with them, grunted them in just for fun, and then I worked my way up through the mountains, and I got to a spot where I looked good, and I'd been in there before, and I knew there probably was a bull around, and I bugled, and one answered me. I just heard him just over the next hill, and I was hunting with my crossbow. I hunt with a crossbow now because I tore my left shoulder and can't pull my bow back anymore, and I just got around this ledge. I snuck around this ledge, because usually what happens when you're elk hunting and one bugles at you, 99% of the time he's already coming at you because he heard you. So you try to judge and split that difference, not quite split it. Sometimes if you cut it too close, you'll run into him and you'll blow it. So you try to get around that mountain and get set up, and then you maybe cow call or call again. Or what I like to do is I like to let those elk try to find me. Let them bugle, then I know where they are, and not give up my location. And so anyway, I got around there, and I got onto this ledge, and he bugled again. He just let a squeal out, which I find that the bigger the bull, the less they call. Like, they won't let out full bugle sometimes unless they're right with a cow. If they're searching for you, they'll just let out a little squeal, just, you know. And sometimes when you hear it, you almost go, was that an elk or a coyote? You know, they'll let that kind of a squeal out. And so I knew he was coming. He was close. And what I had heard was there was 2 bulls there, and I had heard this bull up to my right. He was up on the mountain more. So I was kind of getting set up. There was a little ledge, and I looked around real quick because I knew things were going to happen fast. And I got onto that ledge, and there was a fir tree right there. It gave me a little bit of cover, but I was up on this lip, and I was probably 20 feet up from the regular ground on that little ledge where I come around the edge of that mountain. And just as I got there, I was just getting ready to hit my call, and I looked to my left, and antlers come out of the brush. And that 6x6, he come right out at like 20 yards. And I went, ooh, like that. And I really wasn't ready. So I just held tight, and he walked right by me. And he was at like, I think he was at 26 yards or something like that, 36 yards when I shot him. He was pretty close. But he walked up, and he started raking a tree, and just thrashing this tree. And he actually broke it off, broke the top of it off. So his attention was at, you know, thrashing that tree, so I got positioned around a little bit. And there was a log, an old dead log that had laid down, and there was a tree and a fir tree. And I had a little window, probably 8 inches by 8 inches, that little block. And he just backed up for a second, and I could see a lung shot right there, so I took it. And when I shot, I heard a tree thud, thing, like when an arrow goes into a tree. Anybody that bow hunts, you hear that and you go, oh no, you think I hit something, right? So I'm thinking, oh, I missed him. And if you look in the video, I thought I missed him. And he runs up the hill, and I go, damn. So I said, well, I'll just let him settle down, and I'll video him. So I grabbed my phone, I started videoing, and I'm watching him, and all of a sudden I see the blood start dripping out of him, and I go, oh, I got him. You know, I didn't even I thought I missed him. I thought I hit that fir limb.
The arrow hit a bone inside or something? Is that
No,
what that sound
That
was?
right through him.
That went right through him.
Oh.
And it, if you look in the video, my bolt is right into a log. The broadhead's buried. I had to unscrew it. And so he stood there, and pretty soon he starts quivering, you know, rocking back and forth. And I said, oh, he's done. He's hit good. You know, so then I'm like, oh, yeah, hell yeah. So pretty soon he goes right over backwards, and he laid there for, I don't know, like a minute or less. Then he stood back up and just walked right down in that little draw where I couldn't see him. And I reloaded. I just sat there for, I don't know, 15 minutes. Then I heard his kind of death groan, and he died. And then I snuck over there, and he was done. So then the work began, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you shoot an elk, it's all work after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Any
kind of like
animal.
tracking. You either love it or you hate it.
Right.
Yeah. Like Hal says.
Same way with moose hunting. When they hit the ground, the work's going to begin.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
All of them, deer.
But that's yeah, deer, everything. But that's the reward to a hunter.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we like to do.
Oh, yeah. I don't
So-
know how many times guiding the guys will say, you got a client with you, and you go, how are we going to ever get one? If we shoot one back in here, how are we going to get it out? And
Yeah.
I go, going to be the hard part. It's going to be shooting one. Don't worry about getting them
Don't
out.
ever
Never
worry
worry.
about getting it out. Exactly. Yeah.
No matter where it is, get it
Yeah.
out of there somehow.
Yeah.
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 You guys
So-
are all berries now. Honorary berries.
Honorary berries.
yeah.
Yeah, they figure a way to get them out, huh? Hey, Hal here. Just wanted to tell you we're excited about our partnership with Minus 33. Minus 33 specializes in merino wool base layers for outdoor enthusiasts, from tops and bottoms to hats, socks, gloves. And our gear is going to keep you warm and comfortable no matter what adventure you're on, especially those big woods ones. We're a fifth-generation family, owned and operated, a New Hampshire woolen textile manufacturer. They have over 106 years of woolen expertise, and they started manufacturing woolen socks, the Mountain Heritage ones, in New Hampshire in 2018 with the idea that
a quality product, affordable pricing, and can be worn and loved from season to season, no matter what your experience level or skill is, so no one should feel uncomfortable or ill-prepared in the outdoor community. Having a reliable gear is one of the first steps towards a lifetime of passion or whatever activity it is. And my caveat to that is you got to wear your woolies. Cotton is death.
As you all know, Big Woods Bucks is devoted to promoting the best equipment for tracking and still hunting the big woods. Part of that equation for success is the sights that sit on your hunting rifle. We've chosen Skinner Sights as the company to produce our custom-built BWB Tracker Series peep sight. It's constructed of solid steel, has our custom ghost ring, and was co-developed by some of the best trackers in the world. To get yours, go to bigwoodsbucks.com and click on the Optics tab.
Hey, Hal here. Finally got some good news for all you. Our jackets are finally in. It's been a long process, but we got them done and got them right with all our new features and stuff in them. So some of the new features we added was a game pouch in the back you can access from inside with dividers in it. It's just like the original one. Mine's the original one, not the new one. It's got your slash front pocket so you can get in and get at your GPS or whatever you carry in your front ones. They're all lined with, the pockets are lined with Microtech fleece, so it's nice and warm on your hands when you put it in. Microtech's fleece. Got your slash pockets here. Just 100% wool, virgin wool. I think it's 100% virgin wool, but it's 85% wool with some nylon to make it stronger. Tight woven. And the vest, I don't have the vest on it. The vest snaps on, your orange cape comes with it. And we're going to have the green checkered jackets come in 22-ounce wool, and we have plain green, forest green, same color as our pants that are coming, and those are in 18-ounce, a lighter wool, so you can have a 3-season jacket or a 4-season jacket. And the pants will be coming in a couple weeks, and just in time for deer season. So get them ordered up and we'll get them shipped right out to you. Good luck on the trail.
Hey folks, Rick Labbe here from Big Woods Bucks. I'm here today to tell you about our new packs. This is our new small pack, which the first time I saw it, Chris showed it to me and I said, that's the nooner, because that's the perfect pack if I'm getting on a buck track at noon. And it'll hold the sandwich, your water, a little bit of gear. It's virgin wool, made in USA, waterproof resistant, has a liner on the inside. It's a great pack. This pack, this is our newest large pack, which when I used to carry the older pack, I always wore suspenders because it bothered my hips a little bit. So we designed one with shoulder straps, and this is a great pack. It takes the weight off your hips, puts it onto your shoulders. It's got a GPS pouch right here in the top you slide in. Same deal, it's water resistant on the inside, got that liner. It's a perfect pack. So I go to bigwoodsbucks.com, get yours today, and I'll see you on the track.
Did you hunt right to the end, Garnett?
I hunted right
the second week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I hunted right to the end, and I'm never going to talk to Ryland again, because his little story at the beginning, he passed up that buck. I've got so many woulda, coulda, shouldas because of listening to him. I could have shot.
Hal trained him.
I probably had the most deer I've could have shot, and I'm so happy though. I had the best season you could have without actually.
Oh yeah,
shooting a deer.
Some of I've gone a couple years without them, but they couldn't.
I'll tell you.
Fun.
I had one I shot at, and I admitted to you. So I think I admitted that when we were second week or
Yeah.
third week, whatever I
Yeah.
come visited, but you weren't here.
No.
So
Let's
I didn't
hear
have,
about it.
So I didn't have to admit what I did. So
Yeah.
I actually
What
almost give up the spot because like I was so disappointed in there. People just drive up and down that roads in there now so bad that it's
Yeah.
every time I went in there. I'm too far back.
There you go.
But yeah, I was on a place with it's Tumble Down Mountain. I might as well give up the spot where I started. But I'm not saying which direction I went. But what I found funniest about all of this. I drove in there and I just everybody was riding the roads and I just said the heck with it. I'm going to hunt this other side. I hadn't hunted in there for years and years, and I just walked up the mountain like I normally would, and I was going to do a big loop. And as I started up, I got onto a really big track, and I was like, well, I'll follow him. And I went right up over, and there's an old Jeep trail, and I kept looking. I'm like, why would, I don't know if it's a Jeep trail. It could have been a logging trail or whatever, but it'd been there forever.
Probably, I think I know where that is.
You do know because we talked when we were talking. That's why I was gonna give you a compliment. Hal, 'cause, like, I don't know if it's a compliment, but he's like because it might be how old he is now. Because when we were talking about this spot, I went between two mountains. Like and when I told him where I started, where I was going, he was catching on to which direction I was headed.
Yeah, they call them Jeep trails on a topo map, but those were the original
logging road or something.
I call them cart road because they used to go in logging. They had a wagon or a sleigh and a sled in the wintertime and stuff. And they just grubbed those roads out with a pick and shovel. Just got them level enough so to
They
go
got those
along.
big, and they get those big wet holes where you'll see rubs up in there. And
Yeah.
I got up and I got between two mountains. I went from Tumble Down to the next mountain, whatever direction I was headed.
Yeah.
and I won't give away any more spots, but I think it's going to be gone after next year with the power lines anyway. So,
Yeah.
But I was going up and another bucket come down, and it was an older track. So there's two tracks going in one direction, and I did exactly everything opposite of what I told you what I normally would do. So I hunted all of it because I kept going uphill, and I was way up on this above really, really, really big cuts now. They clear cut all the way down to the road below you. And I got up in the very tip top of those cuts, and that deer had turned and went out into the cut, and you could see there's like a little ledge on the other side, and a little bit of the cut went down below you. And I decided, I just walked out. I just automatically assumed he was gone, and I no more than hit the opening there. And I see the buck get up in front of me, maybe 75 yards or 60 yards across the little opening. And the amount of time it took me to run 30 yards, because he went over the bank on the other side. I'm thinking I'm pretty slow right now because the amount of time it took me to go 30 yards to look down, he's down there 200 or 300 yards. He was quite a long shot going downhill, and I tried it because I couldn't help myself. But
Well, you got to try it.
I tried it, but he was running really hard. He was going straight downhill, and then he turned and he went up. And the reason I was bringing up Hal is because we talked about this spot. I've hunted it for years, and he's like, they used to cross, and we were talking before the road went in, and I was like, they still do, because I followed that deer out to the road and then had to walk probably 3 miles up the road. They were hauling those mats for the power lines back out, but that's the only one I shot at, so,
Yeah, I ain't been up there for years, but funny I can remember that stuff. But when Deb says, pick up a gallon of milk downtown, and I come back, she goes, where's the milk? Oh.
It's really bad when that's the only reason you go to town and you come back without it.
Yeah.
You come back with something else.
I actually have done that.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. I did it 2 days ago. Yeah.
Joe said the same thing one time. We took a ride up north. Where'd we go? I think we went to Zone 1 or something.
Yeah, we were going to Zone 1.
Looking around and stuff, and Joe's driving, and I'm just sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm pointing stuff out. I remember over here we used to hunt, got a couple of nice bulls in there, and Joe says, "How in the hell do you remember every one of these roads up here.
I mean, every road between here and Zone 1 driving up, that's a lot of a lot of country to cover.
I've been up in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how I remember them, but
Well, you've been there so much, you know.
yeah,
Just do.
and you know, but
Yeah.
He chased the deer where I'd been because he knew where they crossed, like on the road. So
yeah, there's something about in the woods. I can't. I'd be lost if I have to put my vehicle in a parking garage or something.
Yeah.
I got to write down the number of the level I'm on.
I have to take
In
a
the
picture. I
section.
take a picture of it with my phone.
Well, that's a good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'll forget.
I won't know what floor it's on. Same way like in a parking lot in like a mall or something like that. You know, they got numbers or letters on the post.
Exactly.
You
Yep.
got to know where it is. I would never find that. But I don't miss, if there's a road in the woods, I remember what that looked like at the head
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
And I don't know why I do that, but I've always been like that since I was a kid. You know, everything in the woods I remember, but everything else,
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah.
I have that same problem. I remember in Las Vegas. You can ask my wife about the story being lost.
Oh, yeah, you can get lost there.
She
You
goes,
get lost in the casinos.
We're
easy.
in there, and she's like, "That hooker's hitting on you." I'm like, "Is that what you call it?" 'Cause I was asking directions to get back to the strip.
I would just love to see you in Las Vegas, Garnett. That's got to be a sight.
I have a degree in planning, and we like the weekend before I saw this deal on there like for Las Vegas. So like this was like a Thursday, and Friday we were like in Las Vegas for the weekend. I was like, it was kind of a letdown because I thought it'd be different than what it was. I was there and lost $100. That's all I brought. I'm not a gambler, so
Yeah, Vegas is built for gamblers
Yeah.
yeah. So
and hookers, I guess.
well, they were hitting on me there.
You probably didn't even realize it.
I was standing there. Well, I kind of realized with the big, tall boots, pretty woman. I don't know. Sally is. I was like, well, I'm married, and like Sally, I'm like, she goes, she can go too, and I was like, Sally, I didn't ask about the price.
Garnett's like, and this is where the story ends.
I can get myself in trouble. Like, I'm not even supposed to say her name. Like, you didn't help me, Rick. she called Nancy or something, or Nancy called and told Rick, make sure I don't bring up anything with Sally. So.
You're doing a great job today, Garnett. I think we've talked about Sally for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Whoops.
She's a hell of a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine living with Garnett all
Nope.
them years? Trying to keep him in line.
No, I have all I can do with 3 days.
That's what Deb told me. She goes, man, that's Sally. She goes, I can't believe how she can keep Garnett in line for all these years.
Yeah, she has to, you have, when the women see me, and they go weak in the knees. You just ask all your big butt ladies out there.
Yeah.
I'd get myself in wicked trouble if I kept my mouth going. So,
Yeah.
No, don't stop, Garnett.
Yeah.
We like it.
well, one I joke with is that Candace. I was like, I just asked her about when Garnett met her. I was like, she was in Fiddlehead, and I don't know if you remember at the Sportsman show, but she's over there, and she goes, I remember meeting you like out Fiddlehead, and I saw her Fiddlehead in the hole when you're doing that. And I was like, I'm not sure. Could you bend over and get that over there? She looked like she was going to hit me. So hopefully she
That sounds about what Candace would do.
but hopefully she doesn't watch this stuff.
She will. She'll let you know.
Cut this pace. Who's doing your editing? Last time you edited out a bunch of stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah, changed my mind there.
Yeah.
Cut that out.
And we had no bikini contest this year. You backed out of that.
No, he sends me a picture from Saskatchewan. His first deer, I was all geared up to beat his first deer. I was like the one he shot over in Maine. He's like, he goes, you ready for the contest? He sends me a picture from Saskatchewan. I said, there's no foreign deer allowed in a contest. We can't have a contest.
I gotta side with Garnett on that.
A new rule.
Yeah.
I was like looking at. I was all geared up for beating the one he had, but then all of a sudden he's like, sending me pictures from Saskatchewan.
We should have had another bet though.
Well, I'd have to go to Saskatchewan then. I was like,
Just on the Maine deer, though, I would have won again.
No, you wouldn't have. Oh my God, no, you wouldn't have. I had opportunity, and I passed up one that I really. This is one of my woulda, coulda, shouldas, because like, it's the second week, and I didn't want to be done. I hate being done, and I was tracking a really good deer, and it had big stride. And I go, like, normally I don't catch up with them. You know, I'm like, I caught up with this one, and I see the body, but I couldn't see the rack when it's running, so I didn't just shoot. I want antlers.
Right.
I really like antlers, and I got up there, and I didn't have a grunt with me, and I should have thought to burp like you guys do, or whatever. Instead, I had one of those can calls, and I blew into that, and the thing started snorting at me. So I was like, boy, that's odd for a big buck to be like snorting like he was. I mean, a snort, and I could hear him going around. So I got inched up in the trees, and I just kept looking out there, and I blew in that can call. Every time I blew in the can call, he'd snort. It was a really big deer, but he had a little tiny rack. You know, I mean, it was like probably a 6 or an 8 point, but it might have been thick horns, but it wasn't his little rack.
Some of them older ones get that way.
Big body, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I think it was a really heavy deer, but it was like a really heavy deer with a terrible rack, and I just made up my mind. I'm like, this is only the second week.
Weren't you guiding that week?
First week.
Oh, okay.
First week I got it, and he did pretty good, the guy I was with, but we didn't get any. I actually didn't let him give me a tip because he didn't get a shot, so or a chance, I mean, I won't, didn't do as good for him as I did for myself, I guess. I wish I'd had him with me for this one, because I mean, he wanted a heavy deer more than the rack like I wanted, so. But I really wanted a rack, and so I let that go because I'm like, it's only second week, and then I don't know, everything just got worse from there. I saw a lot of deer, but it was like nothing that once you pass up a good one, you can't really shoot something smaller.
Right, you don't want to go backwards, right?
Backwards, and I had by far the most action, most grunt. I've never had more deer like grunting and doing stuff that I've in my whole life.
Is this year?
Is this year, and the last day of muzzleloader, and we'll get to that someday. But the last day of muzzleloader, I had 2 that were grunting, and I just needed somebody with me to tell me to shoot because I couldn't see antlers. So I really wanted a rack, and I wish I'd shot.
Garnett, this is the first time you've ever mentioned you needed somebody to tell you to shoot. I didn't think you had any trouble shooting.
No, actually talking to Ryland. Remember we were telling stories with Ryland, and he was telling me that you passed up a buck right at the beginning. And I was like, if a kid can do that hasn't shot very many deer, I'll pass up some deer. So that was the first thing. And then the second one, I was like, Hal was talking about, he had a chance at a deer. Ryland hadn't pulled his gun up. He was watching the deer, and so he didn't get I'm like, yeah, I got my gun up. And I don't know. I just this one with the muzzleloader. I have it was almost the same scenario that we said before, where I'd seen thought it was a buck coming up on the doe grunting. Well, Actually, I shouldn't. I'm the one. I can't say where I was because, I'd be in massive trouble with that. Rick would know. I think he'd see that deer later. But if you go down the Forks and West Forks, Moxie, they feed deer. And I wasn't far from my camp, and I think this is one of those named pet deer they have. But I was hunting in a plantation, and I come on. There's so many tracks. There's just a lot of deer tracks, and I'm not talented like Hal or Rick, where if I track deer, if I was going to track deer, I'd rather be where there's a lot less deer than piles of deer, because I just find myself, I see a track, and then all of a sudden I'll turn onto another track instead of just staying with what you're doing. Well, this one I'd only gone maybe 200 yards following up through this plantation, and I see a doe get up in front of me maybe 30, 40 yards. She takes a couple hops and then walks up a trail, and then right behind her I hear Bert, Bert, and I was like, there's a buck right there. And I was like, so I grunted and I go, it's got to be these deer. So I should have just shot because I could see his shoulder, but I couldn't see antlers. And I was like, what's the odds of big track? It'll probably have big rack here. And I was like, my luck, it's going to be that crotch horn, or something else. And so I kept watching, and I said, no, I'm not just going to shoot it, even though I know it's a buck. And then I wait for it to come out where the doe did, and I kept watching there. And when I grunt, he'd still grunt. All of a sudden, like up where she'd crossed up on the hill, he walks across, and he had a rack like that. I was like, it was huge, and I'm like, oh my God, I should have just shot. I should have had Rick there saying, shoot, 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 like that, like you did with your cameraman there. And I'm like, oh my God. So I said, I'll just go around it, and I'll come back on the tracks, try to get back on them. And so I went, because they weren't scared of me. They thought I was just another buck. I think he thought I was going to hone in on his doe or something.
Right, he chased her out. Right.
I went out maybe, 200 yards around this wet hole, and I stopped, and I was thinking about when I was going to start working my way back. And a doe feeds up maybe 20 feet from me, eating old man's beard. And she knew something was wrong, but not bad. She stomped her foot a little bit, and then she took 2 hops, started walking. Another buck grunted. I look over, and I see it side 2, and it's either a 6 or an 8, but I couldn't tell how wide it was, and I'm like, I don't want him. I want the one I just saw. So I was like, Then I kept debating. I go this is the last day of muzzleloader here. I texted you the day before, I was like, I should have went up the day before instead of the last day because there's so many deer where I was, and I don't know. I went, so I'm watching that buck, and then I was like hemming and hawing whether, I couldn't tell how wide he was. I could just see from the side, and I was like, boy, I want that other one. And then he disappeared. I'm like, well, I guess that's out of the. And then I was like, well, he's going to come where this doe was. So I kept watching, and I was like, maybe I will shoot it. And I'd grunt, and all of a sudden, instead of doing what I thought he was going to do, he went out cutting. I don't know if he was cutting her off in a different way or whatever, but he walked right down off the hill with me not trying anything. I said, good. I didn't want you anyways. I started working my way back in, and all those other 2 deer had done is gone up maybe 200 yards above where they'd been and bedded. So me moving, not knowing where the track was, I just jumped and I see the deer going, and it was probably, and I couldn't tell, I just see deer going. I got up there and I see where the buck had bedded, and he was huge, so it was a really big deer, really big antlers, and it was 2:30 or 3, I was like, that's the end of that. So I said, good.
There's some big bucks down there.
This was really huge. So, yeah.
Tell all them stories, Garnett. We'll have this lodge all booked up for next fall in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, there's big deer. There's no doubt there's big deer.
We talked about that. Rick wasn't here, but on the last podcast when Rick and I went that day, when someone's with you saying shoot, and it happened with Rick and I where Rick saw him, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And that is frustrating.
Yeah, just that window.
Well, that's why I tell people, you're guiding hunters, if it's 4 times harder to get someone a deer because it's
you see it.
Yeah, it's
well, I saw it jump. And right off the bat, I swung on it and
never saw him
again. And then I just expected him to go like this, where he went like this back over, and Rick's going, shoot him, he's a giant, shoot him, Joe. And I'm like, man, if I could see him, I would.
Yeah,
but it's
that deer had a huge body.
Yeah,
his bed was one of the biggest beds I saw all year.
I saw a giant bed with the Jason when I was guiding him. He had, I don't think he understands when they're going. First one we were tracking, we got into a plantation. This deer wouldn't leave the plantation we were in, and got in there, and there's a big moose bed. We got there the first one. He's like, wow. And I went up and I said, that's a moose. He hadn't, but he tracked right across walked right across the moose bed. But the next time when we got to the deer bed, I wish I'd taken a picture because he was carrying a rifle, and this is I don't know if I should say I never like guns when I go with somebody when I'm guiding, but I brought a shotgun because I was figured if you were in that plantation, I was just going to hand him the shotgun because his rifle wouldn't be very good in there, so I don't know if that's, don't usually use shotguns. but in where we were.
I think it's good planning.
Well,
There's
so
nothing wrong with that.
I had buckshot just so, and like I was going to hand off the gun to him. He did a really good job. I mean, he took your class, and he's probably, like when we were tracking, the only thing I saw that, maybe he had his head down a lot. I followed behind him, let him just track, and he did a really good job. And got in that plantation though, like that bed that was there. The track he was on was giant, just huge. Like, and then when I saw the bed, I was like, wow, it's like one of the biggest I've ever seen, really, because he laid his rifle, full-size rifle, went across the whole thing. I was like, so that's a really big deer. That made it worse, so we stayed in this plantation. I was like, and finally I was like, well, maybe, maybe if you could just get out on one of these trails where he'd been, and I just keep on him, we could jump something back and forth. Finally, we were getting so wet, I was like, maybe we'll go out and try some, see if we can get on something else, because he stayed within 300 yards of where we started, going back and forth in there, just
stayed right there.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say
some of them do that.
We came out 300 yards. We went way further than that. I mean, we went big distances back and forth, but this is a big plantation. Hal would know exactly where I was. Leah might know where we were because she walked through there the year before with me. So, in the same area. So
I think that's probably one of the most common things that guys do just starting out tracking is looking down. It's hard not to, because number one, you're learning how to track, so you're learning what to look for and following it. You're not used to, whereas really you should be looking where they're going, but in your peripheral, but watching all the time.
I'm not a good one to have behind you because I was behind him and I see movement. I'm like, Jason. And he's quick with his gun. He's gonna kill some deer. He'll come up here and rent your cabins probably and start killing deer. And but he pulled up his gun, and then I see the ear. It's a small move. So I was like, no.
Old Garnett would have been like, shoot.
I don't know. He's fast. And he's a good. And I had a really good. I'd have to say I had fun with him. We went in the raft, everything, and he almost became one of my bad stories because we went down.
I like how he's sharing this now.
No, well, he saw a spike horn. I cover your ears, Hal. Well, your ears are covered. It's like I had a seat on the other side that I've had for I put up for family and stuff. And when I rode in, I said, "You get up in that seat, and I'll float down. I'll just work my way around you, see if there's anything." Tree seat. But he was, he got up there and then. Didn't have any luck, and I said, well, we'll hunt our way back down, even though I just hunted through there. And he saw a spike horn, he was all happy with that. And we got down, got in the raft, and we got to another area, another flat, and I dropped him off, and I said, I'll go down to the bottom. And he saw so much sign, he goes, I saw a signpost. He'd tell me something like that. I was like, you coming along, 'cause I sat down there. I had a doe come up the river in front of me, and what I really wanted to do was the last hour have us float down and just kind of watching the banks, and he got there 5 minutes before the end of hunting. So we're going down in the pitch black during 2 miles, and I said, you keep watching for where we luckily.
Oh, you weren't just crossing; you were actually floating.
We took the raft and hunted different spots. So. And I was gonna let. I have a standing rack for fly fishing, But I had it. I go, that'd be great rest, and we'll pop something on the way down because that was pulling out all stops. And But the thing is he got there. He was having so much fun, hunting over where we were, and I'm not saying where, but he was over and hunting down through there and having fun, and he came out, and I was like, holy cow, we got to go 3 miles, which in a raft you're not going. And the river went down.
How late were you getting out that night? That's
almost 7. I come up here that's the night we come. So we're it's pitch black, and I was like this. I said, all I can tell you is you keep watching, or you're about to have a horrible story because we'll be out of here at midnight. I'll have to come out through my friend Kim's yard down here or something down in Caratunk. Like, and if I hadn't seen Decker Brook, we would, probably be down there with my raft now. But we
Go
come
under the bridge.
I was like this, we got it out, and it was fun, though. I pictured us going down, shooting it, just not even, like, saying dragging all the work. So I was like, there's no work with the raft. We'll just throw it in.
Floating.
Well, it was an adventure anyway.
It was, and he had, he saw some deer. So, but he didn't. The whole week I saw one buck in the road. Right after we'd seen that, we're driving up, and I'm trying to figure out where to take him because we'd spent all day looking in that plantation, going back and forth, maybe 2 or 3 miles. I made a big mistake the first day. He'd had Lyme disease really pretty significantly, so I made him walk like 8 miles to start the first day when we had snow. I'm brutal to myself, I go out and I just keep walking. And I didn't really think about what I was doing to my sport, so. He saved him on his tip at the end of the week, so.
All right.
Hey,
Well, good stories, Garnett.
So there you go. Probably nobody will call to ask for me to guide now, so you're all set.
I told you I might have someone lined up. Garnett said this year he wanted to take a kid, father and son or something with a
Or somebody
young
like
kid.
Leah. I mean, I don't care if it's if you had a lady that hadn't shot deer or whatever. I want somebody that hasn't. Leah shot deer, but I want somebody that hasn't. If I was going to guide.
Somebody young and eager.
I
Wants
want
to
somebody.
learn.
I want somebody young that hasn't. I love watching somebody that, I don't want somebody that just wants to show up and say, "Where's your spots?" And
Yeah.
You want to teach them.
I'd rather have my son has, he's disabled. He'll never hunt with me. So, anybody that goes with me, that's why, with Leah, I was trying to show her what I would do.
She had a great time.
Jason,
going with you.
and
In
Jason-
fact, she would have been with you this year again, I think, had she
She's
not
a killer,
shot hers.
Yeah. Well, Jason's the same, I was basically more showing him what I would do. And he had some stand he called the Beast that they have, that he uses. And he goes, I didn't bring it because, figured we just track all the time. We lost snow, and I'm like, I wished you had your Beast. Because there's places that, sometimes that's the
Right.
way to do it,
All right, Rick, you're up again.
Okay, so
Guess they're going to have to be short stories now.
yeah.
He's got some
You
good
used
stuff.
up some time. Yeah, so getting back to Maine, so we got that first snowstorm there in Maine. Can't remember the date now. It was just
It was for opening day. We got it on Sunday, I think, didn't we?
yeah.
Sunday night.
Yeah, so I went up and hunted that day and couldn't find much for bucks. And I did locate one pretty good track and never really got on him that day. I didn't locate where he was till the end of the day. So I went back home that night and I got up probably 3:30 that next morning, headed up and found his track that morning where he'd crossed. And I was pretty sure he was up on this mountain. And I'd driven around the whole entire place, the whole entire mountain, and I left about a 500-yard gap from where I had gone by and gone around probably a 3-mile loop. And I picked his track up. So I was 100% confident he was on that mountain. Well, if I'd gone down the road about 200 yards, he had already come back. But this is where that timing thing adds up, because I probably wouldn't have killed this deer if I had done that, okay? And you'll see as the story goes. So I got on his track, got out of the truck and got on his track and followed him up through the mountain there, and he checked, I don't know, like 5 different does. He'd stay with a doe, some does he'd stay with 200 or 300 yards. There was one doe he stayed with almost a mile. And I went pretty near around that whole mountain for 3 hours that morning on his track. And then he started headed back towards the truck, and I said, geez, he's got to be bedded right here. Well, pretty soon I showed up at the road, and I look up the road, and I could see my pickup way up the road there. I'm thinking, damn, this is 11 o'clock. And to get back to the story, so that morning, Barry had called me the night before, and Barry's 75, and he elk hunts with me out in Wyoming all the time. He has for 20 years now. And now and then he'll call me up and he'll come hunt up north with me. So I talked to him the night before, and I said, hey, you want to go up tomorrow? And he goes, yeah, I'll go. So Barry went up with me, and I picked him up. So when I got on that buck that morning, I sent him down, and there's a notch down there where almost every day, if you're on a buck, he's going to go through that spot, in a 2-day period. If you're on a buck track, and I've tracked, I don't know, probably 40 through that spot over the years. So, and there was an old cut there, and you kind of go down in the bottom of that cut, and it turns into hardwoods, and all those bucks is kind of like a funnel. They go right through there. So I told him to go down there and set. So he did. We didn't have no radios or nothing like that, so he just went down there and set for the day. And I kind of explained to him where to go. So anyway, back in the story, I dropped him off earlier in the morning, and then I got on that buck and went around, and I come back by the truck, and I looked up, and I'm thinking, damn, it's 11 o'clock, okay? So now I'm 3 hours on this deer. It's 11 o'clock. I said, I'll probably never even catch him. There's a good chance now because I'm 6 hours behind him. So I got down in this track, and I probably went a mile, and I got down into an old plantation, and you could see in it pretty good, and he was kind of zigzagging through there, and his stride was pretty good, not like he was slowing down at all. And so I wasn't real confident I was going to catch up with him, but I thought he might lead me to another deer, or I'd get lucky. I come into this little beaver bog, and of course around that beaver bog they hadn't cut within like 100 yards of it, so it was all big spruce and little plantations in there and stuff, so it was kind of thick around that beaver bog. And he got in there, and he was kind of zigzagging around that bog, and I was on his track there kind of watching it, and he went out into the bog for a minute where it was wet, and I knew I would have broke through because we didn't have much ice that first week. So I kind of left his track. I went around, I come back, and I could hear the brook running out of the bog, and I wasn't really trying to be real quiet because I didn't know I'd even caught up with him. So I was just kind of pacing along there, like I normally would on a track, and crossed the brook, and I come up a little hill, and there was quite a knoll there on top, and it had some big spruce on it. And I was thinking, geez, he's almost made a half circle right back around his track, because I'd come around the bog like this, and I'd come back till like 10 o'clock from 12 to 10, and I thought, where the heck's he going, and working through those firs, and all of a sudden I looked down, and it had warmed up then. It had warmed up to like 33 degrees, right? So the tracks changed from like 29 degrees to 33. The tracks change instantly. You can see all that detail, and it starts to get a little bit sticky. And I look down, and all of a sudden I see smoking hot track, and I went, whoa. That deer just got up, and I said, he's feeding right here. There was like 15 tracks where he had fed around, and so I just kind of looked around, and it was real thick where I was, and I said, boy, I'm not in a good spot to even grunt, because I knew he was close, okay? I couldn't smell him, but I knew he was close, and I'm hoping I hadn't jumped him yet. And I think the brook saved me, that little bit of water. So I worked my way up this hill, and it was probably like 50 feet, let's say, up to the top of that little knoll. And I got up to the top of that knoll where I could see pretty good, and I grunted. Slid my grunt back in my jacket. I stood there for a minute, and I was just kind of looking, watching the edge of that bog. I knew he was there somewhere. And like a minute or two went by, and I'm thinking, geez, if I was 2 feet forward from where I am, I said I could see over that knoll a little bit, and I just started to pick my foot up and lean forward, and I see antlers coming up through the firs. And I could see his 8-point rack coming. And I said, oh, there he is, and he was coming right at me. And so I pulled up, and boom, I shot him. Well, he rolled over, went right over backwards, and I kind of got over there, and boom, I finished him off, and I got down there and looked him over, and I said, that's a pretty good buck. I knew he was right around 200. He wasn't a giant, didn't have giant rack, like I wanted, but you don't get that all the time. So I said, yeah, he's a pretty good buck. So I get him dressed out and all that, and I look at my GPS, and truck's like 700 yards, and I'm thinking, man, I don't want to drag this deer. I said, I'll go get Butch to help me tomorrow. So
You called me first.
yeah, I did, right? See where you were. I did. I forgot about that. So I killed that deer, got him dressed out, and whatever. Well, Barry was like, I don't know, maybe half a mile from me, 3/4 of a mile up to the left in that gut where I told him to go. And so I said, well, I'll work my way towards Barry, and, maybe I'll jump something else or whatever, and probably heard me shoot or whatever. And he didn't know it was me or nothing, had no clue. So I start working my way, and there's a buck track, smoking hot buck track. And I'm thinking at first, oh, that's the same deer I killed. I says, he must have gone out and then looped around in that bog and come back. So I'm kind of working my way over some blowdowns, and the inlet to that bog had come in. He crosses the inlet. There's no track coming back. I'm looking up and down. I said, maybe this is a different buck, So I says, he's almost exactly the same size track as the one I was on. So, and it could have been the buck I was originally on, and I just shot the other one. And so I got on his track, and pretty soon he come up, and there was a really fresh blow down there, and he had picked all that old man's beard clean. And he'd picked that all clean while I was dressing out that other buck and taking some pictures of him and whatnot. And then he had left. So I could see, I walked around that blowdown, and I looked, and I could see his track going up through the hardwoods. I said, well, maybe I'll push him on to Barry or something. I says, he was headed right to him, right up that spot where I told him to go. And I got on his track and just started picking my way up through there, and pretty soon I jumped, I see him go, he took off, and it wasn't 30 seconds later, boom, boom. I got up there, and we killed mine was 208 and his was 205, about 35 minutes apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Good story.
Yeah, you don't get that very many times over the years. So that was a pretty good day. And so then I called Butch up, and I said, hey, you want to go drag a deer out for me in the morning? Yeah, I'll come down and help you, he says. So
×2.
no, I didn't tell him. So he comes down, and we dragged the first one out, and he brought a jet sled. He brought one with him, and we put it in the jet sled, and that was Barry's buck, and we got that one out first. And I said, hey, I got another one down here. What? And he says, I ain't got time. I got to go to work. And I says, no. I says, I need some help. So he come down. We got that one out. But thank God for the young guys.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I think it wasn't a day or two later after that, I left for Saskatchewan. And Dad went with me. And Dad and I haven't been to Saskatchewan together in, I think, 5 or 6 years. And Mom had passed away in early September there, and Dad was pretty down in the dumps. And so I called the Linwood Doble, a friend of mine, Linwood, actually booked the hunt. He asked me if I wanted to go. I said, yeah, I'll go back this year. Maybe the deer recovered some. And so I called the outfit, and I told him the story about, Dad's been going to Saskatchewan with me for almost 30 years, since I was in my early 20s, and told him about my mother and all that. And the guy says, yeah. And it was Lance Robinson. And Lance says, yeah, I'll fit him in. He says, yeah, no problem. So I called Dad, and he was happy in hell, and it made his day, I could tell. And so we went up, and we both shot giant bucks, and I ended up shooting a 10-pointer there that weighed 256, and Dad shot a 8-pointer that was really massive, and he had some little stickers on him and stuff, and real nice looking deer. And so we had a great trip to Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Both shot good bucks, and yeah.
Do all the places you go out there have scales? Pretty much.
Most of them do. Yeah. He's got a nice setup because he's got a great big shop that you just back all the four-wheelers and everything right in at night, because usually it's so cold there, everything freezes. You're going through these bogs and swamps, so they thaw everything out at night. And he pulls in this heated shop. He's got a lift in there with a scale on it, everything.
The guides.
Cutting bench.
Does it have to be guided where they take you out to the?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought.
Yeah. Everything in Saskatchewan's got to be guided. As a non-resident, you can't hunt there on your own.
So you can't even ride out on your own.
No, you can't. No.
I have a cousin in Alberta, and there's parts of Alberta you can't even hunt. And even if you went up and had a guide, you have to go up in like remote areas.
Same thing with Saskatchewan. You can't hunt the farmland. Right.
My uncle goes
residents only.
My uncle goes out from New Brunswick with them, and they shoot giant deer just from the truck, even because there's just big deer out in their around their farmland there.
Yeah, yeah. That's where the world record came from. The farmland in Saskatchewan, Milo Hansen.
Yeah.
Right, but non-resident can't hunt the farmland.
My cousin's husband is the head of the grizzly bear program for out in Alberta. And, and he's a doctor, and she does something with fish and wildlife.
Yeah.
My uncle used to be I'd say game warden, but he's a forest ranger in New Brunswick. You go out hunting out there, they got some giant deer. Just it's not really hunting though, because they don't really have to work very hard. But you can sit on baits and stuff out there too. So
yeah.
It's all fun.
Well, wicked fun, Not that I'd ever want a bait here.
But it's not as.
Had to throw that out there.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we left. I left Saskatchewan, and Dad went home on his own with Linwood and his brother, and I flew from Saskatchewan straight to Denver, then back up to South Dakota, and I met my son-in-law Levi, and Jeff Parody, and my buddy Todd from Wyoming, and myself, and we hunted South Dakota for a week, and we all shot nice bucks. I mean, and we had this, we hunted some public, and we had this private piece that the guy had leased, and I don't know, it was like 12,000 acres, and I had a mule deer tag. I think I was the only one that drew them. I could shoot a mule deer or a whitetail, and I said, if I see a really good mule deer, I said I'll take him. I said other than that, I'll probably shoot a whitetail, and so Levi and Todd shot out the first day. They both shot, like an 8 and a 10, good, nice bucks, and they were both sitting on ground blind, and I did my thing. I like to just walk all day, just with my binos, and just hunt these little drainages into the wind, and I like to just spot and stalk, and if you see a deer, leaving a couple 100 yards ahead, you want to just hold up and just stop, because chances are you see a doe, you're in the peak of the rut, there's a buck there somewhere, and you just wait them out and watch, see what shows up, and, they'll mill around and work their way out, and you can usually pick yourself out a pretty nice buck if you do it right. And
that's that open country, right? Everything's pretty open.
It's pretty open, except when you get in those, those drainage ditches. It's pretty thick in there. And
how far are you shooting?
Oh, you can shoot probably 150 yards in the woods. It's pretty thick. Yeah, but you get out in the open. But what the deer will do is they'll cross from one of these ditches to the other. So he'll put a blind on a hill, and that's what Todd and Levi did. And Jeff did too. Jeff sat in a blind, and I walked all week, and then I ended up. I think it was the 4th day. I ended up seeing that mule deer, and he wasn't as heavy as I wanted him to be. I thought he was, but I shot him at that magic first 10 minutes of daylight, and when they're walking away, and he was at 400 yards. And I could see he was, like 28 inches wide, so I had to shoot him. So I did, and that was a nice buck, a good buck. Ended up hitting him. I hit him in the back of the head, and it came out his eye.
400 yards.
400 yards. Yeah, I was on shooting sticks that morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I did see some nice whitetails, though. I videoed about a dozen 8 and 10 pointers that I ended up letting go. There was a big whitetail there. There was a really big buck, and so I shot that muley that morning, and Jake called me, and we had like 2 sections of that ranch that we could hunt. One you had to go by truck about 15 minutes. You know, it's probably 8 miles away. So Jeff was sitting in the blind that morning, and I shot, and he called me, and I said, yeah, I just killed a pretty nice mule deer. And he says, yeah, I seen a few bucks and whatnot. And then Jake calls me, the guy we were hunting with.
Yeah.
He goes, where's Jeff? I says, in his blind. He goes, go get him. He says, I got a huge buck laying down. He goes, I'm watching him right now. He says, huge buck. So we got a hold of Jeff, and we drove up, got him out of the blind, and we drove over there. And this buck was bedded on Indian territory. So, and it's all sectioned out. And you got onyx. This is where onyx comes in big time. Because if you didn't have onyx, you wouldn't know where you were, and
Be in trouble. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you would be easily. So Jake says, he goes, that's on Indian, but you could see the fence line, and he goes, we own everything around it. And he goes, when that buck gets up, and he was bedded with a doe, the doe was about 100 feet from him. And this is another timing thing. You know, it all just worked out. So we sat there and watched him for a while, and you could see his horns sticking up above the grass. You know, he's in that switch grass. And Jake says, what do you want to do? And I said, well, and he had seen another buck. He says, I saw a wider buck than him, but his tines aren't as tall. And he goes, he went down in that draw. So we sat there and we glassed that buck for about 20 minutes. And it didn't look like he was going to get up. I said, what do you think he's going to do? And Jeff says, I don't know. And I said, that doe's this way from that buck. And I said, when she gets up, I said, chances are she's going to go. And I said, the wind was coming from my left. And I said, she's going to go downhill. I said, I think Jeff and I ought to get down in that draw. And I said, he and I are going to go down in there. And I said, we'll try to glass for that other buck, because he went down in there somewhere and laid down in that thick brush. So I said, let's go down in there, Jeff. Work our way down. Well, there was a small field between a hedgerow. So we got down in there, and we're kind of glassing for that other buck, seeing if we could see him laying down in there anywhere. We're working our way down, and I could see back up across the road. So I looked across the road, and I said, yeah, that big, he was a 9, and he had all these little stickers. I mean, beautiful buck that Jeff killed. And I could see him laying down. I said, that buck's still laying down. I could see his tips of his horns, and he was probably like 300 yards from us now, up across the dirt road. So we watched him, and all of a sudden Jeff, he goes, he just got up. He goes, oh no, he saw us. Well, he didn't. A coyote came from the other direction, bumped that deer, and bumped the doe actually. So the doe comes across the road, jumps through this hedgerow, and she's coming right at us down into this thick ditch, which was probably like 80, 90 yards away. And we're right in the middle of the field. And I said, he's going to follow her. So Jeff and I laid down right in the grass. We just laid right down flat. And pretty soon that doe come out, and she comes running around the corner, and we watched her run down the field. She was at like 200, and then she got 150, and then she's at 100 yards, and she's in the brush. And then here comes that big buck. He's got his nose right on, and he's just trotting. And I got it all on camera. And he come right down, and he got into that brush, and Jeff put one in him. Boom. So Jeff, I think he only had 2 shells. So I said, shoot him again. And he shoots. Boom. Missed him that time. Or maybe hit a brush. It was pretty thick in there. So he shoots again, and he goes, I said, shoot him again. And he turns around, and he goes, I'm out of shells. So I run back to the truck, and I get up there, and Jake's laying on the ground at the truck. And he thought, because there was another deer that had run down the side of the road that we didn't even know was there, and he thought we were shooting at that deer, so he laid down on the ground. I got up, and I says, no, Jeff just shot the big one. And he says, oh, damn. And I said, we need another gun. So I grabbed my gun out of the truck, and I run it down to Jeff, and you can see it in the video. He gets down. He snuck down to him. The buck was down. He was hit pretty good.
So
he finished him off.
Jeff's out there hunting with just 2 shells?
Yeah, he only had like 2 shells in his pocket for some reason. But there was actually a shell in his gun still. Something didn't happen because there was still a shell in his gun, I remember, when we got down, because when we unloaded, he goes, what the heck? He goes, I still had a live round. and it didn't chamber in. I don't know what happened, but for some reason it
was in its mag still.
click. Yeah.
Pretty confident if you're going out with 2 shells or.
Right. Yeah. But that was a beautiful buck, and we got it all on video. So
Wow,
we
that's
got a little movie coming out on it that we videoed of him and I. So it should be good.
Oh, that's
The
awesome.
South Dakota hunt. Yeah.
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 So I forgot to announce this because it's Rick's. Rick just turned 60, last week, right? This
You
week,
got it. January 4th.
January 4th.
Yeah, a week and a half ago.
He's in the geriatric crew officially with us now.
Great.
Yep. Me and old guide Mike and Jeff.
Yeah.
And you. That's the only ones, I think.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys just slow down?
Why would we do that?
I'm noticing, like, geez, you guys are a bunch of killers still. They're still talking about dragging deer 2 at a time, and
Yeah.
I think we're all of us are in pretty good shape, though.
Yeah.
You know.
speak for yourselves.
Yeah. How old are you, Garnett?
54.
You're just a young pup.
Yeah. You bet. You're down in Joe's league.
I'm going to be 55 pretty soon, so.
You're lucky.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got the Santa Claus look going on already, though.
Chicks dig it.
Always comes back to the chicks, doesn't it?
Always,
Garnett?
yeah. The ladies.
Sally's like, we're going to darken that up because
Don't mention her name. She doesn't want to be mentioned.
She's like, we're going to darken that up because, like, I had mothers
If
trying
you
to-
come in-
trying to get me to tell their kids to be good, like that. And I was like this. I said, no, chicks dig Santa Claus. We're not messing with that. If anything, I'll thicken it up. You know?
That would be the best. So if you colored your beard and came in like that, so
I'll come in with black.
So last year, the first time you come in wasn't this past season. You'd come in the year before, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Looking around for us or something. And
Oh, at the Sportsman Show.
No, here.
Oh, here.
Yeah,
I think I went to the Sportsman Show the first time.
No, but I mean, you came here like not this year, but a year ago too. You came
Yep.
in and dubbed around. Well, he came in and Erica was here getting supper ready or something. He came in snooping around and looking for us. And later on,
Yeah, that's
Deb
right.
goes, some old guy come in looking for Hal. Deb goes, yeah, kind of a big guy, kind of tall, kind of big.
Oh my God! I worked for her more than anybody here.
Hey, we were in Ontario, and the
Debbie,
guy had
Debbie.
asked me if that was my dad.
That's true. That's right. You're right.
Erica was the one that said it. And Deb goes,
All right, I guess I
maybe
am
you should call her.
Maybe I am going to darken this thing back up. Jeez.
Deb goes, he's not old. It's Garnett. He's only about 50 or something.
Yeah.
Erica goes,
Yeah.
really?
He does have the rosy cheeks like Santa Claus, though.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
I think I've gone a little harder than you guys.
Yeah.
Might have.
Yeah. How'd you get them rosy cheeks?
I stay out in the cold. You guys, I think you guys hunt in those tents or something now.
Yeah. Listen to him getting defensive now, huh?
Yeah.
Hey.
Maybe you could do a red and black checkered on that. Be a diet, red and black checkered.
I wasn't going to make fun of him at all anymore because he's like, what kind of contest you want to do now? what do you want to do? Fish? I'm not going to do any of that stuff. Really. I've already got I'll tell you what though. Next year I'm going to get one of your jackets and I'm putting patches all over it because I still have some.
Garnett, take him to the bar and see you can pick up the
when
woman
I come
first.
in, I'm going to be like, this is my little brother.
Yeah.
We're twins. I'm gonna have that. My jacket's gonna look exactly like whatever. You're gonna be sad that I got your boots. I already got. Oh yeah. I got all the same gear now, so we're all set.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. We're running out of time, Joe. He's giving me that scary eye look.
Yeah, the antlers are dropping as we speak, Joe.
Yeah. That's what he's waiting on. He's trying to get out of here. And go
Oh, a
in.
lot of work to do today.
I got to borrow his sled.
All right, I got one more quick story though.
All right.
So,
Jesus, Murphy. All right, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
so my last 2 hunts, well, we didn't talk about Iowa either, so I'm missing 3. But we'll go through them real quick.
We'll have another podcast someday, you know.
I know.
You can tell them now, though, if you want.
All right.
People will listen, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. And, so I ended up going to Iowa. That was, I drew an Iowa tag, and which is one of my most favorite place to hunt probably is Iowa. We hunted a brand new zone, brand new place up in northern Iowa. I'd never been there before, and this guy, he had about a 300-acre piece that he owned, which isn't a lot. So what we ended up doing is we would sit morning and evening, you know, and it was all hardwoods, a lot of oaks, and we'd sit morning and evening, and then during the day, because I can't sit all day, we'd go hunt public land all day, and I'd just walk. There was probably 3 or 4 or 5,000 acre pieces on Onyx that we that weren't that far away. They were like a mile or 2 from where we were. So we'd go hunt them all afternoon and walk. And I mean, I saw a ton of bucks. I saw 50, 60 bucks in 5 days, and I ended up coming back.
Spoiled. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I know. And ended up coming back that last evening, and there was a little field up top of this guy's farm. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go set on that field. I said that last hour before dark, and there was quite a few rubs around that field, big rubs. I mean, on 12-inch cedars, just raked right up. And he had told me he had seen a really big buck up there. And so I'm working my way up, and I'm just kind of sneaking up in the field, and I'm just cresting the hill where I could see up through the hardwoods. And I looked, and I could see a deer walking down the field, and I stopped for a minute, and then I see antlers, you know, big antlers sticking out. And I said, ooh, that's a good deer. So I got right onto him, and he stopped, which made me kind of nervous. And when he stopped, I couldn't see his head. I could see his horns, and then I couldn't see his shoulder because there was a big tree between me and him. It was fairly close. So I just kind of leaned out, and I had a shot, but it was a little bit back. It was like 6 inches back than the kill zone there, right behind the shoulder, you know. And I knew it was a little bit back. And the way he was quartering kind of to me, where the shot would go in, it would go in behind the shoulder, but I knew it was going to come out back, you know. So it was kind of a gut shot, but it was still a lethal shot. I knew it would be. And he stood there for like 15 seconds, and you know how you get that feeling when a buck stands still too long, they're going to bolt? I just got that, and so I fired. I shot him, and I just, like I said, I hugged that tree as tight as I could to get it in him. Well, he took off, and his tail wasn't tucked. I got one more shot at him as he went across the field because it was all a bunch of hardwoods and trees. I fired, and I figured I missed that shot, but I ended up connecting with him, and I didn't know it. And he jumped the fence, and I watched him jump the fence, and then he went on another piece, which I didn't have permission. So I got over there, looked for blood. I found a little bit of blood about as big as my thumbnails, and he was not too far from the fence, and he jumped up and he blew at me. So I thought, oh, man, because a wounded deer that's wounded bad usually won't blow at you, very seldom. And so I went back down, and the guy piece that we were hunting on told him what happened and that, and I said, I think we ought to just let that deer lay. I said I shot him back, and I said there's not a lot of blood, and I did. I found a little bit of paunch on that leaf with the blood on it. I said, I'm pretty sure he's shot back. I said, he's definitely going to die, but I said, if we go pushing him, because he says, well, we'll go up tonight. And I said, no, I think. So he went down, knew the neighbor, talked to the neighbor, no problem, they said. So we got up there right after daylight the next morning, and that deer was laying about 50 feet from where I saw his last jump. And he didn't really look like he laid down for the night because there wasn't really a bed there. His legs were stretched out straight, and like he just fell over and died. And once I gutted him, it had hit his liver. It took out about half his liver.
Running.
Yeah, he died running. And the coyotes had one coyote, I think, had just gotten in and probably eaten about a pound of meat out of one cheek of his rear end there. So I was pretty happy to find him the next morning. He was a beauty. And so we dragged him out, and my buddy Don, he saw a few good bucks, didn't end up shooting a big one, but passed quite a few. Yeah. Then from there, we went on to Nebraska a couple weeks later, and Nancy went with me to Nebraska, and Jeff Parody came out to Nebraska, and so we hunted pretty hard. And Nebraska took a really hard hit last winter. I don't know if everybody remembers that they had like a 4-foot snowstorm there, and right after Christmas, and I ended up canceling my trip because there was 17-foot snowdrifts in the roads.
Jeez.
It was over a week before they had some of the highways open. So we ended up, in the season ended December 31st, so we ended up not going. And when we got there this year, I noticed a big difference in the amount of deer we saw, because usually you see a lot of young mule deer, and there wasn't many. And we come on to that one big buck, and he was busted up pretty bad. And Nancy, we saw him coming up through the sand hills there. We were out in those sand hill desert hunting, and we had hiked in there about a mile. And that one buck was working his way up through, and Nancy says, I'll shoot him. And so she got on with my muzzleloader, and she shot him at 312 yards.
Oof.
But I got that long-range muzzleloader I bought, and it's pretty accurate. So she shot that buck, and we ended up getting him out and all that. And then when her and I said, well, I'll go hunt the rest of the day, and Jeff was off somewhere else hunting, and I never connected with a real good buck that I wanted to kill. I saw a lot of bucks, but nothing huge. And when her and Jake were taking her buck back, they saw about a 180-inch buck, a giant. And she goes, I actually could have shot him, and no problem. So they kind of knew, and usually those mule deer will go back and bed the same mountain range, where they were. So the next day was the last day of the hunt. Jake and I went back in there. The fog was so thick that morning you couldn't see more than 200 feet. So we said, well, let's just sit in the truck and let this fog burn off, because I said, we don't want to spook him and jump him. Well, we waited till 11 o'clock, and the fog never really lifted. It started to lift some, and then it would kind of come back in, and it never lifted that whole day. So we ended up, about 11 o'clock, we get out of the truck, and we just started walking. And through all those gorges and little creeks and crevices and all that, and just going along, and we ended up walking right onto him. And he jumped up, and I saw him 2 jumps, and he was out of the fog. Couldn't see him. And so I never got a shot at him. There was snow on the ground, so I tracked him about 2 miles, and we never caught up with him. The mule deer, when you jump them, they run for about a mile straight, and they'll get on a hill and look back, see if you're coming. And in that open country, you got to see them before they see you, or you really got to. Yeah, game over. So I never got on to him. Then we were coming back later that afternoon. I made a big loop, and another big buck had got up, and that we had never seen before, and he actually had triples on the top on both sides, and I ended up taking a shot at him. My rangefinder wouldn't work, and we guessed it at 400 yards. The fog had lifted a little bit, and you could see him walking up a hill, and I had my shooting sticks with me. I got onto them, and we guessed it at 4, but after we got over there, we figured it was over 5, and I undershot him. So that was my chances in Nebraska. I never killed a buck. And then I went to Arizona, and that was my bow hunt. And that's probably the most challenging hunt I've ever done in my life, is that Arizona spot and stalk in the Sonora Desert on a mule deer. And I just can't even explain how cagey and smart those deer are. I mean, everything has to be in your favor. It's just unbelievable. And then with a bow, on top of that. So we ended up the first day of the hunt. It snowed, which it's never done in 5 years I've been going. And we froze to death all day. I mean, we get up and glass on these Sonoras and just look down into the desert, and you just glass and glass and glass and try to pick out either a buck walking in the morning, or maybe one laying down, and usually they're in the shade, so you see an ear or an antler, or maybe just the hind end, and everything's just so tough out there because you're hunting in that cactus, and when you're up high and you do spot a deer, let's say he's 500-600 yards out there, and he's chasing a doe, or he's just on the ground. When you're up high and you're looking down in that desert, it looks flat. When you get down there, it's all these, so these deer just disappear like nothing, because it's so little crevice and rolly, and with all that cactus, they disappear quick. You're just like, where'd he go? And so we ended up the second day of the hunt, we went up to this mountain where I missed a really huge buck with a drop tine 3 years ago, and with my bow. And we got up there, and there was a guy sitting in our spot. And the guy I hunt with out there, Mike, and Mike's a hell of a for a guy on glasses. I've learned more from him than I ever learned from anybody in my life about glassing for deer. And he's just a phenomenal guy on glassing. So we get up to a spot, and I said, oh, there's a guy there. And so the guy come out and kind of waved at us, and Mike goes, geez, I've been coming here since I was 15 years old, and he's in his mid-40s. He said, I've never seen a guy here in my spot. So I said, well, let's just go down the ridge here. There was like a big ridge line. I said, let's go down that ridge line 300-400 yards, and I said, we'll just set up down there. So we went down, and we just left the Jeep, I don't know, half a mile. We walked through the desert. We'd seen about 10 deer already that morning. It was just getting light out, one small buck. And we got up on that hill, and he was glassing off this way. And, I was kind of glassing off to my right, and then I turned around and I said, well, I'll glass behind us where we came in. And I spun around, and I'm just kind of standing up, and there was a big rock there. I had my elbows on that rock to keep the glasses steady, because you're glassing with 18-power binoculars out there in that desert. And I just swung around, and the buck I killed, he was back too. He's got 16-inch tines. Well, when he's back too, and he had his head on the ground, and he was only about 200 yards from me, and I just kind of swung over, and I went, holy shit. And he was going back too, and I mean, those tines looked like they were 24 inches tall, back too. And he was going away, and he was pretty wide, and I'm thinking, wow, that's a giant. And so I whispered to Mike. I said, Mike, I said, big buck. So what you do out there is you carry a little radio, and you put an earpiece in. So the guy up on the hill keeps glassing that buck, because you would, if you went after him on your own, once you lose eyes on that deer, your chances of finding him again are almost zero once you're down in that desert with all the cactus and everything. And it's really thicker and tougher than you think. I mean, until you've done it, you just can't imagine. And so he stayed on the glasses. I snuck down, and there was like a little draw there. And I told him, I said, I'm going to get in that draw and work my way down. And I said, when I get to that mountain, I said, let me know what he's doing. There was like a little bit of a rock hill there. And so I get down to that hill, and I'm like 5 minutes into it. And it was just timing and luck all came together for me right there. I get down to that hill, and I went on the radio, and I go, Mike, I said, where is he? What, you want me to go left or right? And he pauses, and he goes, stand right where you are. He says, they're coming right at you. Well, he had turned that doe around and chasing her right over that hill. She comes over the hill within like 30 seconds, 15 yards from me. And I got my crossbow, and I'm trying to range, because I got a range, and then it actually, I'm using that Garmin scope, okay, and you range it, and then the pin just goes boop to whatever the range is, and I can shoot out over 100 yards with that crossbow, very accurate. And he comes over, and he's running, and I'm grunting at him, just, rat, and I'm thinking, no, he's going to go by, and he's only got like one window left. He's gone right by me chasing that doe, and he doesn't even take his head up or anything. And I'm grunting, and just, there was a great big barrel cactus there. He just put the brakes on like 5 feet before it. He stops, and he just turns his head, and he looks right at me. And I had just enough time to range him, the pin come up, and I let that arrow fly. So that buck bolted. And when he did, Mike comes on. He goes, "Oh, you got him. You smoked him." He goes, "I can see the blood flying out 3 feet on both sides." And I'm looking, and you could actually see the blood. He was so close to me, you could see the blood coming out of that buck. And he run off. So he run off about 100 yards, and he stood there. And then and I got my camera out then, and he just slowly lays right down on the ground, and he put his chin right on the ground, and you could tell he was hurt bad. So Mike's like, "Yeah, you got him." He says, "He's going to die right there." I said, yeah, I think he is. I said, "I'm just going to sit right here till he's done." So I sat there about 20 minutes, and we watched him. And Mike's up on, he's like 300, 400 yards away up on the hill with his glasses on a tripod. And he goes, "I think you ought to go." He goes, "He looks like he's about done." He goes, "Put another arrow in." And he says, "Go up and put another one in him." I said, "Yeah, okay." So in that crossbow, you got to crank it. It's kind of loud when you crank that string back. I put that crank on, and I'm about 100 yards from that buck, and it went click, 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 click. He picks his head up, looks back at me, onto his feet, takes off, gone. So Mike watches him for about a quarter of a mile, and I ran up over the hill after I got an arrow in, and I could see him. He was about 150 yards from me probably, just going, had his head down, and then he disappeared. I'm like, "Oh, my God, what just happened?" I says, in the desert, trying to find a deer on dirt, dry, bare dirt, sand, and cactus. So I said, he was on the glass, and we saw him go into this big, we call it a wash out there. It's these washes, and that's the only place trees grow in the Sonora Desert. It's in these washes because that's the only place that's wet. And he went into that wash, and I said, "Well, chances are he's going to lay down in that wash." Mike says, "Yeah, I think you're right." I said, "Let's give it 2 hours." So we just set our clocks, and I laid down. Well, that was a big mistake. I laid down on bare dirt.
You sent me a text because
you
could tell you were worried.
Yeah, I was. And there was probably like 100-year-old cactuses that had fell over and died there, but the thorns don't go away. When I laid down, because I stood for a while, and I said, I better sit down. I laid down with my elbow like that.
Oh, one of them?
I had about 30 thorns, and they were just like little microscopic needles. They went through 4 layers of clothing, and they were all through my side. Yeah. We had to get a pair of tweezers, and she had to take them all out.
Holy.
And so you never come home from Arizona without something in you. So every time. So anyway, we waited the 2 hours, and that was a long 2 hours. Very long 2 hours, just thinking, "Oh my God, I just lost the biggest buck I ever arrowed," right? So I start working the blood trail over there about 2 hours, and I got over, and there was very little blood. Every now and then, he ran once, and when he started to run, there was a big 6-inch blob of blood, and I hit him back, just like I did that Iowa buck. Same deal, but I don't think I hit his liver, because I think it went through, because it come out really close to his shoulder on this side, and it went in back on this side, so I think I just hit one lung. So I think he was living on one lung that whole time. He laid down everything. And they can go a long ways on one lung. Even, you see whitetails. Sometimes we chase them 2 hours in one lung. So we got over there, tracking the blood, and Mike goes, "I last saw him right where you're standing, right there." And so I started searching, and I found a couple little specks of blood. He went down into that sand wash, and you get down in there, and it's like beach sand in those washes where the rivers come up, and then they just dry right up. So it was all like beach sand, 6 inches thick. So you could see just hundreds of deer tracks, but you could see you could tell by the color it was a little bit darker where it was lighter where he turned the sand over. I said, "Yeah, I think I got his track." I says, "Right here." I says, "I'm just going to go real slow." I said, "It might take me a half hour just to go 50 yards, but I said, if he's laying down, I said, I want to shoot him if he gets up." And I went about 20 yards, and I looked over, and I could see some antler laying sideways, and immediately I could tell. I said, "He's dead," because his rack was laying sideways on the ground then. He didn't have his head up or anything. So I got over there, got my binoculars out, and I could tell he was dead. And I radioed him. I said, I got him, you know. So, and so that, you know, right there it goes from hunting being the highest highs of your life in a year to the lowest lows in 30 seconds, you know, and then back to the highest highs again. And you're just like, yeah, you know, that's why we hunt, you know, for that reason.
That's the emotional roller coaster.
You got it.
I'm up and I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm up, right, Garnett? That's when you see them bucks and let them go. You're up,
Yep.
you're down.
Absolutely.
All day long when we're tracking, it's an emotional roller coaster. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we do it.
Yeah.
It's like being on the ride of your life the whole time.
You wrote
Sure
the best
is.
article this year, by the way. I don't usually read anybody's stuff, and you had one about make your luck, and I read it because that's how I live. I live on my luck, but I make my own. I like
Right.
that one you wrote in articles.
In the journal?
Did you write something? I don't know. I thought you said you had
Probably
something that said make your luck, and
Oh, yeah. I think it was posted on
you did something. And
in
I
the
saw-
website.
It might have been.
Yeah, probably Brian put it on there, yeah.
I saw a thing that said make your luck. It was on Facebook, and I saw that, and I said,
Yeah.
click on it because it's kind of how I.
Right.
Kind of how I roll in the woods. And
Create
wet the
your
stuff
own
in.
luck.
Yeah.
Most guys that are successful all the time, you know, anybody, you know, for a hunter, you're constantly thinking about opportunities. What would be a new opportunity? You know, so you just make opportunities all day long.
I liked it.
Good.
Just
Yeah.
thought I'd throw that out there. Dad.
You got two dads
I'm
now.
here with my dads.
I learned it from you, Dad.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
So, guys, got anything else to say for yourselves?
Well, and you ladies out there, I'm taking. So can't say by who because I'm not allowed to mention that.
Now that you're on video, finally, you got to put it out there that you're taken.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not.
She's a lucky.
Maybe not after this podcast.
Right. Might be free. I don't know.
She's a lucky woman.
I've said that all along.
You tell her that every morning, don't you, Garnett?
Same with Nancy, right?
You got it. That's right. Yeah, we got the best wives there are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All
We
of us do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us go hunting when we want to go, and they go with us, and
Make us up a little food once in a while.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both had beans last night, huh?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Deb made
That's
them,
funny.
Deb made them beans. She
Yeah.
said Nancy replied she made some
Yeah,
for you.
she did. She baked beans, made
Yeah.
right from scratch.
Did she get the air out of them?
What do you mean? I don't know.
The gas.
Yeah, well, yeah, they didn't bother me.
Yeah, they did. They did me because
They did.
my metabolism. Yours must
That's
be.
what I was noticing here. I was sitting downwind here. No? Poor-
We can't get through a single podcast without coming up with Hal's gut habits.
I think we all got them.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, all right then. Let's wrap it up. Until next time, good luck on the trail.
Hi everyone, team member Mark Sheeran here. I've been helping people solve their addictions for the last 34 years. In 2017, we published the revolutionary non-12-step book, The Freedom Model for Addictions. If you'd like a free paperback copy sent directly to you, go to freebook.freedommodel.org. That's freebook.freedommodel.org. All right, take care.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open all obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.